Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Big Apple Hockey, and we certainly have a lot to say and a lot that is churning at the bit. We were just actually talking in the green room just now because we have a lot that we're talking about. And I, of course, am your host, Marc Williams, whose solo close-up wasn't working right there, and joined by Mr. Anthony LaRocco of the fourth period.
Turn it over to Filk so you can get going. I'm just going to say it's great for the game that Connor McDavid's in the Stanley Cup final on the grand stage. So happy about
we're going to
that.
be talking a lot about this.
Let's hand it over to Filk.
Yeah, we're going to be talking a lot about the Stanley Cup final and the main event, the man you come to see, Mr. John Polkowski.
I don't know. Yeah, I'm guessing people are expecting me to yell and just go crazy. I'm past that point. So if that's what you came in looking for, I'm sorry, but you're going to be extremely disappointed. I had a lot of time to think about things and just kind of formulate things in my head rationally without having the steam coming out of the sides of my ears like the kettle in the cartoon. But I just think there's a lot of blame to go around here with this team. I think you got to blame first the Stars for not showing up. Sorry, but Mika Zibanejad, Chris Kreider, were they pulling their best Casper the Friendly Ghost impression? We know Chris Kreider is usually good for that. I get it, but no, sorry, Joe. Sorry. I'm not going to yell. It's not going to happen. Sorry. It's just not that way. I'm past that point. This is why you don't do shows without me.
That is 100% right. This is the
lesson learned, guys. Lesson learned. So,
first off, the lesson was learned a while ago. Never mind.
Oh, right no. We're not going to say that because that's not necessarily true. So, I'm looking at a team that put together a core that wasn't built to win. And I'm going to blame Chris Drury for that. And the reason I'm going to blame, Jeff Gorton obviously has some to blame, but Chris Drury also has some to blame too. And the problem is that you can't build a team that plays East-West as much as they do and expect to win when everybody that wins plays physical, tough, north-south hockey. And I'm not trying to be xenophobic here or anything like that because there are tons of Euros that played tough hockey that have won Stanley Cups. I'm looking at Pavel Datsyuk. I'm looking at Henrik Zetterberg. I'm looking at Andrzej Kopitar. I'm looking at several guys that have played tough north-south hockey that have done what it takes to win a Stanley Cup. Guys like Mika Zibanejad are not that. They're not that. He's proven that time and time again. And yeah, I get it. He had 24 points in 20 games 2 years ago in the playoffs and the conference finals run against Tampa, but he fell short after game 3. He and Chris Kreider both fell short big time. And they did that again. Artemi Panarin, once again, has come up short. And even if you want to take a look at his point line and say, he was almost a point per game, he was the third best player on that line. And there's no way that you or anyone in this world can tell me otherwise and look me straight in the face doing so. Sorry, Maria, but I'm over this anger thing. It's just I've come to realization that this is what it is with this team. They have to change. And Larry Brooks was alluding to it. Larry Brooks said that he likely thinks that there is going to be a big change coming. He doesn't know what players are going, but a big change is coming. Jacob Trouba has to go. He has to go. He has to be gone. You cannot have an $8 million defenseman that is basically a traffic cone on skates. You can't have that. I will not touch Jeff Skinner and that contract. No way. I know who you were talking about, State of Survival. It's not Jeff Skinner. Jeff Skinner is not the answer for Jacob Trouba. It's an even worse contract. But
it's also just bad that Stuart Skinner is playing in the Stanley Cup Finals, and that Igor Shesterkin is not.
Yeah, the nationality doesn't matter. It's not about xenophobia or anything like that. Capo Caco plays soft for a guy that's Finnish. I mean, and the Finns are supposed to be the heavy ones out of all the Europeans. They're the ones that usually play a more defense-oriented north-south game. They play physical. They play more like the North American, Western, good old Canadian boy type hockey that you see. I tell you right now, this team is just not built the right way to win, and that falls on Chris Drury. But Peter Laviolette failed to make big adjustments. And I understand that this is a ballsy move, but Jacob Trouba should have been benched. And he should have never been brought back. So I'm going to blame Chris Drury for not LTIRing Jacob Trouba, which he could have, and getting that extra cap space to go get a big name forward that he could have done, that he could have used to help out that top line. Because his biggest mistake was not addressing right wing. Yes, they need Gabriel Landeskog type players. I couldn't agree more with this. Gabriel Landeskog is a Swede, hard-nosed player. Notice no xenophobia there, because it's not about nationality. It's not about what your flag is. It's not about where you come from. It's about your mentality and how hard you play. And this team does not have the mentality that is needed to win a Stanley Cup. You want to know why? Because they will not do the dirty things and whatever it takes to win. Attacking the perimeter, attacking from the perimeter and not getting to the middle and getting to the slot and causing problems is why they didn't win. It's not the refs. They weren't able to break the puck out of the zone, and they were not able to get to the middle. And I think Edmonton will have a little more success than they did, but the problem is that you cannot play man-on-man in Florida. They tried that with Carolina, and it worked. I understand that it worked, but you cannot play man-on-man. They had to go back to the 1-3-1, and Laviolette did not do that. He did not do that at all. It hurt the team so much, because if they would have went back to the 1-3-1, they would have had more success, and they maybe would have been able to push for a Game 7. But they didn't, and Laviolette's to blame there. Laviolette is also to blame for not benching Trouba. He's also to blame for not putting Zach Jones into the lineup when Zach Jones could have helped. I don't care what anybody says. Zach Jones would have done wonders for that team. You would have had a fast, mobile defenseman that could get to the pucks quick and retrieve them before Florida could set up their forecheck. That's exactly what this team was missing. No defenseman could get back there and get the puck, and that's the problem. So it's that the inability to break the puck out of the zone and the inability to support the puck was another thing. The other thing that I saw that this team just I don't think it's even Laviolette. I'm going to blame the players for this. But why were they over relying on stretch passes? Why? Like you understand that in order to break out of the zone against a team like this, you have to break out as a unit of 5, and you have to have puck support down low. The forwards continue to fly the zone and continue to go look for stretch passes, to which it has no effect. And it turns into a dump. They're turning the puck over. No gas to skate it out. Yeah, because they're not getting to the pucks first. That's why. Because the defensemen are completely immobile. They need mobile defensemen. So Fox being on one knee did not help. But he's even not the fan. He's not a burner by any means. He's not a burner. But adding in Jones would have helped. Gustafsson was terrible. Trouba was terrible. Schneider and Miller were probably their best pairing because Fox was playing on one knee, and Lindgren's game is obviously severely affected when Fox is affected. So that's really the defense. The forwards, Kreider and Zibanejad should have been broken up. Another thing that I'll blame Laviolette for, should have broken them up earlier in the series. And you could have put them on different lines, and it would have given you more depth. It would have given you more options. It would have gotten them away from Barkov. It at least would have gotten one of them away from Barkov, probably Kreider, but it would have gotten one of them away from Barkov. And credit to Alexander Barkov, 2 Selke trophies, probably the best defensive forward in the league right now for my money. But I will say that Laviolette's refusal to change things up really hurt the team. And again, I know that he takes accountability. It's refreshing to see a coach that actually took accountability for things, like when he took accountability for not getting the most out of Kakko. Name me another coach in the last 15 years that's done that.
Certainly not GG.
Certainly not David Quinn.
Correct.
Certainly not AV.
Correct.
Certainly not John Tortorella.
Yeah, okay. I think Tortorella would have said something along the lines of, this is what the player needs to do, and they're not doing it. But the other guys, they definitely wouldn't.
We never heard John Tortorella in his second stint turn around and say that, it was my fault that I didn't get enough out of this young player. We never heard that. He never took accountability for it.
And Filk, just to address one of the comments in here, can we give any credit to Florida? Yes, we can give all the credit to Florida.
Yeah,
but
they executed. They played the game that they need to play.
Yeah, it's just like, how does that help the Rangers get past them?
It's the leadership group came up short. And this is why I question the leadership group. And I had so many people attack me on social media about it. Oh, how can you question this leadership group? No, you can question this leadership group because they're not good enough.
And we had one of the commenters back in Game 6 versus Carolina when Kreider had the hat trick. And we actually thought they mentioned that tweet. You said the leadership group needs to change, and you were talking about that because you were talking about it during the game. Kreider comes back and has a hat trick, but it still didn't. That one game didn't set aside this problem.
No, and that line had been bad at 5-on-5 all year. So, and I see people on Facebook, or not on Facebook, but on Twitter, blaming Mika Zibanejad mostly for things and giving Chris Kreider a free pass. I'm sorry, but Chris Kreider, that's not a free pass that you get. That's not a free pass. Like you did not show up for most of the season. You had pretty decent numbers. I'll give him that. I'll give him that his numbers were okay. Probably one of his better seasons number wise, but it's a night to night, game to game, shift to shift thing. You have to bring it every night, and the great ones do it. That's why Chris Kreider is not one of the great ones. He's a good player. I don't understand how people are giving a guy who's terrible at 5v5 because he just doesn't want to forecheck the way that he used to forecheck anymore. Kreider used to be a forecheck monster.
Mm-hmm.
And then he just stopped skating. He realized that he could park himself in front of the net and make a career out of it. It's like Alexander Ovechkin. Ovechkin, in his first 5 seasons, was probably the most exciting player I've watched, barring probably Connor McDavid, because Connor McDavid is just another level of talent. But Alexander Ovechkin, after those 2 down years, figured out that he could be a one-timer merchant on the power play and just score from that location because nobody could stop that shot. And all those dynamic goals that we used to see went out the window. We stopped seeing them. And you know what? He had a great career, but tell you right now, when players figure out that they have something that they're very good at that nobody can handle or answer to, they change things up and they rely on that thing too much. And that's what Chris Kreider has done. Chris Kreider, and you saw it in Game 7 against Carolina 2 years ago. He blew right by Jacob Slavin for that goal, for that second goal, that backhand that he got on that breakaway. He blew right by him and shrugged him right off. Why can't Chris Kreider do that every shift? Why can't he not score goals every shift, but why can't he play that hard and play that physical and skate that fast every shift?
I don't think it's his game. I think that's part of the problem, Phil. I think he's very much a speed type of game. Occasionally the grit and the fire comes out in them, but it's not something he does readily. Because I think AV expressed that in his final season when the Rangers, I think it was against the Pittsburgh Penguins, they had that big third period on Wednesday Night Hockey, and you're like, oh, why can't they do this more often? Because it's not his game. It's not his game.
So yeah, I don't think I've ever said this. What I said was that years ago he had a run where he was getting penalized a lot for hitting players, and he didn't know his own strength. We're talking about like 2015, 2016 area where he would just absolutely truck players and get penalties for it. And I think something like gave him PTSD because he just does not hit. He hasn't really hit players like that since. Yeah, Evan, I've already blamed Drury. I blamed him for not getting the right wing. I blamed him for not putting Trouba on LTIR. I did that, so that's already something like that. No, we're not going after Tom Wilson.
No.
Why are we going to add another guy that's – listen, I get why people want Tom Wilson. They want someone that's physical, plays north-south. But Tom Wilson is a complimentary player with a big contract. Why you're looking to get rid of one of those in Chris Kreider and then add in another in Tom Wilson? I don't understand that.
Yeah, because I think the thinking is, you get Tom Wilson and then that's something. But the truth is that's not. Look, I brought this up several times over the last 2 months, which is the greatest duo I've seen in my lifetime is Solani and Correa. Both of them played for the Anaheim Ducks in the finals, and neither one of them played together. And we know my affinity to Chris Kreider. If he's the only one that could get moved, you have to move him and move him now, because it's his no trade clause kicks in too. Jacob Trouba, talking about his ankle, and you and I, Filk, have both gone off about this on Twitter. Jacob Trouba, people going, hey, he has a broken ankle. Broken ankle's one thing. Why is he so far out of position? The penalty kill in Game 4 in overtime. He's all the way over by the boards.
Goes for a hit along the boards. What are you doing?
Exactly. And you can't help but go, wait a minute. What are you doing right there? Like I played that Family Guy clip of the turn signal. Good luck, everybody else. Yeah, because that's what it felt like. I said this to somebody earlier today. Penalty killing is either a box or a diamond. It's not 3 across and one guy on the bottom. So what the hell is he doing right there? It would give a peewee coach like fits trying to figure this one out. This guy has to be gone. And I know when people want to say, no, we're overreacting. We're not overreacting. Those are that between that hit and the one he tried to put on Evan Rodriguez.
I want to be when I say this.
Evan freaking Rodriguez got around his hit because he couldn't place it on him. So I see right back to you.
I don't understand how this guy has the selfish bravado to try to play through an injury in which he clearly isn't playing well with, or he isn't handling well. A broken ankle can take up to 16 weeks to recover from if surgery is needed. So why did this guy miss only 26 days? And why was it that the very first game that he came back in, the game against Arizona where Lafreniere had his 5-point game, they let up 5 goals.
Yeah.
As soon as he came back, boom, defense just went to complete crap. And honestly, he needs to go. I saw something about Brian Boyle stated that he would move Ryan Lindgren to Las Vegas. I would look into that too, because you can't make the same mistake with Ryan Lindgren that you've made with Marc Stahl and Dan Girardi. You can't, if he's looking for that type of contract, goodbye.
Yeah.
Goodbye. You can't do it. He's hurt too often. He's too small to play the type of game that he has and has a long career. Keandre Miller, honestly, if Ottawa said that they would take him for Jacob Chychrun, I would do it. I know you run an injury risk with Jacob Chychrun, but Jacob Chychrun is a proven point-producing, puck-moving defenseman. And he could play legitimate top 4 minutes without having to worry about his defensive game. So
No worries that he's played very few playoff games and very few experience.
I'm not worried about the experience. That I'm not worried about, because this core had a ton of experience. Mika Zibanejad, conference finals. He'd been to the second round of the playoffs with them in 2017. He had plenty of playoff experience. Chris Kreider, plenty of playoff experience, including a Stanley Cup final and 2 previous Eastern Conference finals as well. And
3.
I'm saying, so he Stanley Cup final, which obviously
and 2, and I'm sorry.
2, yeah. So look at that. Like, I mean, he completely fell apart in this series. 2 points in one game. 2 points in one game. And nothing done at 5-on-5. Nothing done at 5-on-5. So, I like this quote from Knobloch the other day.
Yeah,
ask the Bills how important Super Bowl experience is.
That is a cold-hearted comment, Filk, to say the least.
It is, but it's true. The experience doesn't matter, because you eventually you pick it up and you go along and you learn. Yeah, I get it. Some people like to refer to it. Oh, you have to learn how to lose to learn how to win. It's not always the case. Mm-hmm. So I just think that we're talking about players who have the experience that still haven't gotten the job done. What does that mean? It's like the expected goals for stat. Oh, that's great. Expected goals for. It means jack shit if you're not scoring goals.
Yeah, or if the goalie figures it out. I mean, after all, my game Sunday night, I had 2 breakaways. One I shot 5-hole. Goalie stopped it. Second one, he knew I was deking, and he stayed right with me.
Yeah, and you know what? Even though I think that team quit on Gerard Gallant, the Devils beat the Rangers last year. The team is mentally soft, and they went and they had to ask for help. I get it. Gallant was not helping them out at all.
No, it wasn't.
But again, it comes down to a desire to win, to want to play that type of game. And Drury has already had a discussion with Panarin last offseason. Does he have another one with him this offseason? He's got 2 years left on his deal.
Phil, I've been arguing with people about this all week. And let's start with Zibanejad first. Terrible. I don't know a single player that has waived 5 years of no move just to go and say, you know what, I'll go somewhere else now. Because you might ask them, do you want to waive your no move clause? Especially that the team was 6 wins from a Stanley Cup. I think Panarin is more feasible, but still not really.
I'm going to quote Shorzy here. They don't hate to lose.
Yeah.
That's all I can think about right now is Jared Kiso as Shorzy saying they don't hate to lose, and that one missing tooth with his little smile saying it. So, but yeah, it's true. They don't hate to lose, these guys. They don't. Mika Zibanejad's answers are unbefitting of somebody who's wearing a letter on his jersey. Chris Kreider is talking about how, okay, this is an interesting one. I'll take this from Steven. Kessel waived his no movement clause in 2015 with 7 years left, 1 year into his deal with Toronto.
Okay, wait a minute. There's a caveat to that. Toronto was in a full rebuild.
Okay, so then what if Drury goes to Zibanejad and says, we're going to go in a completely different direction and we're going to rebuild?
He's going to have to follow through with that.
Yeah. So, it's just, I personally don't think they would do it. I wish they would, but I think it is more likely that they go and get Brady Tkachuk from Ottawa than they do a rebuild. And I'm not saying Brady Tkachuk is lightly. Don't let me be clear. Let me be clear in saying that. But
first off, it doesn't prove Anthony's comment. So, but Filk, let me go further into this because again,
here's another one. Rick Nash waived his new movement clause to go to the Rangers with 6 years left.
Again, it's from a team that was terrible. The other team has to be bad in order for you to move on. They don't leave winners. People don't leave winners. The only person that might do it is Mitch Marner because his next contract could be set up from this.
Mitch Marner is also getting scapegoated.
Yes, and he's getting scapegoated in the Toronto media.
He's partially, and it's not necessarily that he's fully being scapegoated. He does deserve a lot of the blame because he's proven time and time again that when the play gets tough, he disappears. So,
and again, I'm going to repeat again, even though I'm getting told that I'm wrong right here, is that again, show me the player that left a winning organization. Anybody. Don't give me Rick Nash on the Columbus Blue Jackets.
I can give you a better one.
Marc Messier. What was this?
Marc Messier.
No, he was going for the next contract.
The Rangers.
Oh, that's right. Well, that had a different story. That was contract negotiations.
Players can leave winning organizations, Mark. It can happen. I'm not saying it's likely. I think Brady Tkachuk to the Rangers is more likely than the Rangers rebuilding. And I'm not saying Brady Tkachuk is likely to the Rangers. I'm really not. I'm just telling you that's how little I think that we are going. Yeah, Jonathan Huberdeau was traded.
Yes, but this is why I'm bringing it up what Steven says. And Dave, I'm not moving the goalposts. It's just I'm refining what the goalposts are. Can't just be anybody.
That is moving the goalposts.
All right, fine. I moved the goalposts. Anyway, Phil, this is where I get back to. This is the decision the New York Rangers have to get to. Jonathan Huberdeau was a 115-point player, an MVP candidate, and Florida, after winning the President's Trophy, getting to the second round, said, we got to move on from you. Like, that is a big one.
And that's the thing. And if that can happen, so can Mika Zibanejad.
Not bloody likely is the best way to say it.
Who thought Jonathan Huberdeau was getting traded?
He didn't wait. He didn't have a no move clause. I didn't think he was getting traded, by the way.
Do you remember? Can we go back and view the stream from when that trade was announced?
Yeah. No. And
because all of us were mind blown by it.
Right. But that's what it's going to take. They're going to have to sit back and go, we're going to have to make this trade. And that's why I keep going back to it's Chris Kreider. And
I understand that because he's the guy that has the flexibility to move. I understand that. He's also older than everybody else. He's going to be 34. I mean, he is not getting any younger. He's not getting arguably, I mean, his point totals are better than they were years ago, which is strange. But, I mean, his 5-on-5 play is diminishing season by season.
And the other thing is,
Lafreniere is going nowhere. Please stop. He's going nowhere.
Yeah, no. Lafreniere is the guy that they're definitely keeping in here.
Lafreniere is closer to Brady Tkachuk than you think.
And again, look, I can't help but look at the situation, and you're gonna have two players. You're gonna have to convince that they're gonna have to move on. They're gonna have to waive their no trade protection, and it's sort of like I keep going back when everyone was upset about David Wright in the 2016 season. They're like, why won't he waive his no trade clause? Well, because now the team is finally good. He wants to be there. That's the simple thing. But again, you're looking again, Steven, you're looking at some of these.
That example's a reach, Steven.
Yeah, but and I understand what everybody's saying is you're talking about teams on losing organizations, players on losing organizations, and then you gotta go, hey, do you want to leave? No, you always want to go to the winner. But
Anthony does have a point. He does have a point. If if they approach him and tell him they don't want him here, he's going to take offense to that. And he's not going to feel wanted. I'm telling you, it happens. It happens.
I have not seen it where a player has left the winning organization with 5 years of a no move clause. I've not seen it. And it's hard even to fathom.
There's always a first time for everything.
All right. Then what happens if the Rangers trade Mika Zibanejad? And by the way, if he actually does agree to waive his new move clause, they're getting pennies on the dollar. Because
why are they getting pennies on the dollar?
Because if they're shopping him, then they know that they agreed to a waiving no move clause.
No, that doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to get pennies on the dollar. Is the return not going to be as great as it was 2 years ago, 3 years ago? Probably not. But it's not going to be. There's no guarantee that it's going to be pennies on the dollar. Like I don't understand where you're getting that from.
All right. Well, I'm going to go back to what I said before, and I've said it again. I don't believe this is happening. I don't see it happening, and I'd wonder what people are going to think when this eventually, if it eventually does happen. Like, it's just what situation is what's going to be there.
I'm not anointing Lafreniere from one good season and two playoff highlight goals. I'm anointing him because I understand the potential that he was drafted with, where he was drafted, and the talent that he has. I mean, you want to talk about, I guess, proving it. Watch, he'll prove it next year. He'll prove it.
Yeah, he'll prove it next year.
I'm not even going to go further with this comment. Sorry, just watch.
And
you don't have to.
Let me go a little bit further. Actually, let me go a little bit further with you on that. If the Rangers are serious about giving him more playing time, they're going to have to figure out a way to change that core. I'm going to go back to that first power play because they always have this philosophy of using the 90-second power play. That needs to go, by the way. Build 2 power play units.
No, you know what it is? It's this right here. Like, he hasn't gotten the power play one time, and he's still putting up insane numbers at 5-on-5. 26 goals, 25 assists, 51 points at 5-on-5 even strength. You know whose numbers those are better than? Austin Matthews, Leon Draisaitl, and a handful of others that are all elite players.
And you know what, Filk? Most teams take on a number 1 overall draft pick, and he's the centerpiece of their organization. He isn't a supplemental piece. And it's time for the Rangers to start focusing on that.
Well, that's why I kind of like I'm torn on the idea of keeping Kaapo Kakko. And the reason I'm torn on it is because Laviolette acknowledged that he didn't do enough to help Kaapo Kakko. I agree and disagree to a point. Kaapo Kakko needs to improve his speed. He also needs to improve his confidence. I had somebody, a friend, actually a viewer of the show that is not in the chat right now, mentioned that Kaapo Kakko may need to use a longer stick. It's little things like that that can sometimes make a change that can help a player out. I think Laviolette, if it wasn't Laviolette there, I would be less inclined to want to keep Kakko here. But Laviolette, after seeing what he did for Lafreniere and the steps that Lafreniere took, I do think that there may be one more chance for Kakko here. And you know what? The biggest reason is the fact that they do not have right-wing depth. Aside from Lafreniere, what is their right-wing depth right now?
Not much, and it's a question of whether or not
Kakko.
go in. Yeah,
Kakko.
It's Kakko.
It's those are their 2 right wings right now. Is Brennan Othman going to play right wing at the NHL level? I mean, is that's your third line option? You're gonna ask a rookie to be your third line right wing. Okay. Milosh is probably not on their radar. If he has a year like Edstrom and Rempe and Hartford, where he shows a lot of promise and speed and size, then maybe they bring him up at some point. But that's not a guy that's on their radar to be somebody that's coming out of camp with them. I can tell you that right now.
And Rich was asking this one right here. Why would you trade a cheap, controllable player like Kakko with possible upside defensively and great defensively? Look, Phil, here's the other thing.
Change of scenery.
And I think people kind of neglect this with Kakko. We all just want to go, Kakko's going to be cheap. Kakko wants to stay. This is where Kakko belongs. Phil, I don't think that's the case anymore. I think if I'm Kakko, if I'm him, I'm never going to get the chance here. There's nobody in front of me, and yet I can never get power play one time. I'm better off moving on.
Up.
Of what?
So badly. That's another thing I blame Laviolette for, is they never no. Patrick Laine has just you could say that he's become a more of an all-around player, but his game has fallen off so hard. I want nothing to do with that. Right now.
I mean, it's one thing I keep bringing up right now is that I think the Rangers need to, if you're gonna say you got to keep this core, fine. You got to address the number one right wing, and you also got to strengthen your bottom six and get them to be tougher. They got to be tougher to play against. I'm not seeing that with Hedl and Kakko.
Yeah. Who thought Laine was going to be better than McDavid? Who thought that? Maybe somebody in Winnipeg who might have stuck their head in a freezer for a little too long or something. Like, who thought that? I've never heard that anywhere from anybody on any form of social media. So I don't know where you were getting legitimate. I don't know about that, because I don't know who you were talking to that was saying that, but they don't know about hockey. Oh, yeah. I think I know what's going on.
Yeah, no, Ho-Sang was better than McDavid, according to Ho-Sang.
It was Don Cherry that said that Ho-Sang was better than McDavid in, like, bantam, which may have been the case because Ho-Sang was an insane talent. He really was. He just had a poor attitude and no drive. So,
like, it's one of those things, though. They have to change something up. I don't think you can run it back next year. And as Rich is saying right here, just look at Mikko. He went to the Panthers, and he looks like an animal physically. We can afford to let guys like Kakko go. Yeah. But look, and again, these are guys that I've said before. I think you'd be crazy enough to trade Kakko, Kreider, all these guys. But it's come to the time of either you move them or you run it back, and I don't think running it back is the answer, because they're not built to beat the Panthers. And right now the bar is set. You have to beat the Panthers. The Panthers.
But the problem is with the Panthers is that they're going to have some big financial decisions to make this offseason. Like, you do realize that, right?
Yes, I do realize that there's some big ones, especially Reinhart is one of the ones that we talked about. With
Montour. All right, so I'll give you their cap numbers right now. So next year, they have $34,866,667 tied up over 7 forwards, with Anton Lundell being an RFA, Nick Cousins, Ryan Lomberg, Steven Lorentz, Sam Reinhart, Kevin Stenlund, and Vladimir Tarasenko being UFAs. Tarasenko's probably not coming back. Lomberg may get overpaid by a team looking for a depth player, like the Rangers did with Goodrow. Reinhart could get an upwards of $10 million plus on the free agent market.
And as you said, 28% shooting percentage.
Yeah, that's unsustainable. I don't think he's scoring 57 goals again. I don't. I think he's probably a 35 to 45 goal scorer, somewhere in that range. Aaron Ekblad is under contract until 25-26. So he has 1 year left on a $7.5 million deal next year. Forsling's the only one signed long-term on their defense.
Mhm.
Mikola's got 2 more years left after this one. And then their UFAs as of next year, Ekman Larson, who's probably not coming back, Kulikov, who's probably not coming back, and Brandon Montour. So Brandon Montour is going to come back. If you're going to get him back, you're going to have to give him at least $7.5, $8 million.
Yeah, that's a hefty price tag they're going to have to re-sign him for.
So they and total for their total for their defense core, $17,375,000. So you're already up over $52 million in cap. And then there's their goaltending. Bobrovsky and Spencer Knight both have 2 years left on their deals. Bobrovsky UFA, Spencer Knight RFA. That's $14.5 million. So now you're at just under $67 million, and you have 7 forwards and 5 defensemen under contract, and only 3 of those defensemen are legitimate NHL defensemen. The other 2 defensemen are Tobias Jornfot, who is a waiver claim who probably won't become anything great at the NHL level. He was a 2019 draft as well and hasn't done anything. He was a LA first rounder or a second rounder. And then Juvis Balinskis, who is 27 and has played, I think, maybe a handful of NHL games. Yeah, he's played 26 NHL games at 27 years old. So that's not an NHL defenseman. So Florida is going to have a lot of changes that they're to make. Can Florida end up being a worse team? Yes. But the point is that you have to build this team up to play playoff style hockey, and this team is not built to play that style of hockey. They're too east-west. They're not enough north-south. They're not physical enough. That's just it. Verhaeghe's under contract.
I made the comparison a while back, Filk, and even kind of more recently to the 96 New York Rangers that built their team after 95 with their defending cup champs to beat up on Verhaeghe is a UFA next year.
Next year. Yeah. After next season. And then he's going to command probably an upwards of $8 to $9 million.
Yeah. He was already a bargain at, is it 4.1? I think it is.
It's 4.166667.
Yeah. After the last 2 seasons he's had in the playoffs.
Yeah. No, he's getting paid. If he stays in Florida, they may be able to give him almost $1 million less on the AAV because of state tax. But if he hits the open market, he's going to get probably around like $9 million.
But again, you kind of look at them and go, they built this team to get past Carolina. They didn't exactly take into account Florida. I think they get past the Boston if they're there. I think this one thing is, I think this was Florida's year. There was part of me that was believing it was the Rangers' year. Looking back now, do the Rangers get past Dallas? I don't know.
Thank you, Rich, by the way. Rich made another comment earlier on that I highlighted on accident. I was going to go back to it, but thank you, Rich. Appreciate it.
No, this is why we do this, guys. We do this.
It's fun. It's fun.
Yeah, and we're growing. We're growing because of you guys, and that's why we always try to keep going. But I know everybody's starting to mention all these other things, but the thing is, you need to refresh that bottom part and get talented guys in there. This is why you need a Brennan Ottman. You need a Gabriel Perreault. You need maybe Adam Enstrom coming up next year.
And this is another thing. If and this is just hearsay, if he wants $12 million, bye. Sorry, I didn't say it, but bye.
Because I got ripped, absolutely ripped yesterday, because I said that if you pay him more than $10 million, it's cap suicide. And people on Twitter are going, well, you need to learn about cap percentage in order to, if you want to be taken seriously as a journalist. No, you don't. No, you don't. Here's a list of the following. And again, the guy that made the tweet, here's a list of the following goalies that are paid $10 million AAV and have won a Stanley Cup.
Nobody.
That was the end of the list.
Nobody.
And if Bob gets there, good for him. But
he'd be the first.
Yeah. $9.5 million. And you want to say, if you want to tell me $9.5 million, well, that's almost 10. It's not 10. That's the point. You can't pay a guy the same rate as an every game player when he doesn't affect every game. You can't do that. It's just lunacy. And by the way, I will go right back to the same line Ralph Kiner heard. The Rangers can lose in the conference finals with you. They can lose without you. Except it was last place, by the way. That was what it was.
But the problem with the whole Igor thing is that this team can't make the same mistake that they made with Lundqvist.
Correct.
And they gave Lundqvist an insane contract at 31 years old that ran him until he was 39, and they had to buy that out. You can't do that again. And I understand that Shesterkin is only 29. But how many good years is he going to have left if you're going to continue to run him into the ground because you can't do shit at 5-on-5?
Yeah.
Like, I don't understand, like, what the thought process is behind it. Like, and here's another thing. Connor Hellebuck is probably going to win his second Vezina. Do you know how many other goaltenders in the league have 2 Vezinas that are active?
Just one.
You know who it is, right?
Yeah, it's the guy playing in the finals right now.
Exactly.
And Filk, by the way, I just want to say this because also somebody, I retweeted somebody from Edmonton who called the goaltending issue in Edmonton a wash.
Yeah, I saw that. That's a joke.
And then he replied back to me.
It was like the
he replied back to me and
yeah.
then deleted it because he realized how ridiculous he sounded.
Yeah, exactly. It was stupid. But
by the way, Phil, look at this. Look at this. The one down here: Anthony Emmy, Cam Ward, Matt Murray, Jordan Binnington, Darcy.
What do they all have in common? Non-elite goaltenders that have won Stanley Cups.
Yeah, and they had great defense in front of them.
You're going to say 28. Yeah, he's going to be 29 next year, though. When that and he's got 1 year left on that deal. So they're going to have that deal is going to start when he's 29 going into 30. You got to remember that. So, I mean, I just think that we're looking at no, Billington is not a poor man's Billy Smith. He's not. Connor Hellebuck just got $8.5 million, and he's probably going to win his second Vezina. The Rangers are going to use that as a bargaining point if he decides that he wants $12 million. If he wants $12 million, then that means I care more about myself than the team. Goodbye.
And if he wants $12 million, Phil, no, absolutely not.
No.
And you realize the bevy. If the best thing, honestly, I'm a little bit reactionary right now. So everybody, bear with me on this. The best thing for the New York Rangers would be if Igor asked for $12 million and was steadfast on that. Absolutely. You have a 10-team no trade clause. I will deal you right now.
I don't like using the Sabres and Hasek because Michael Pekka was their first line center for a while.
Yeah.
Like Miroslav Shatan, outside of 140 goal season, was their in 1999 was their best goal scorer for years.
Yeah.
In the Hasek era when they went to those conference finals and the Stanley Cup finals, they did not have the team to win. But and I mean, I get it. Like Dominic Hasek, and I've said that Shesterkin, the way that he plays, is probably the closest we've seen to prime Hasek. I get it. But it's not a matter of who replaces him, Dave. It's a matter of, and again, I'm not here to evaluate Shesterkin's value on an open market in terms of AAV or anything like that, or anything. What I'm here to discuss is the practicality of giving a double-digit AAV to a goaltender when you pretty much know that this core isn't built to win a Stanley Cup. You have to make major changes to get this team to win a Stanley Cup.
By the
Why
way,
are you going to go and give a double-digit AAV contract for 8 years to a goaltender when you know that you have to make major changes, which are probably going to cost some serious money against the cap? Why are you going to do that? It doesn't make sense.
It's also that you can't do it when you're paying one defenseman and assuming he's still on the team. You can't pay Jacob Trouba $8 million. Adam Fox is it $8.5 million? Is Adam Fox
9.5? But he's
9.5. I'm sorry. And then whatever Keandre Miller is going to get. If you, on the other hand, if you're Vegas,
Miller, I can't justify giving another penny more than what he's making right now. But they're likely going to have to if they want to keep him. Right.
And Filk, if you take Vegas's philosophy from last year, build on your defense. In a way, Colorado built up a good defense core. I pointed out Carolina back in 2006, the first salary cap cup team, they had a great defense core. If you build up your defense core, that almost works just as good as having.
Didn't have a good defense
in 2006.
No, their first pairing was like Frank Caberlet and Aaron Ward.
Yeah,
Aaron Ward was logging 20-plus minutes a game for them. That's why the Rangers went out and got him the next year after that, because they thought that he was going to help fix their defense, and then they traded him mid-season for Paul Mara.
Still, if you work on getting your defense better, that you can play your defense more than you play your goaltender.
The problem is that Carolina's forward group was what was amazing. They had four. They were 4 lines deep. They ended up getting Marc Recchi, Corey Stillman, Eric Stahl had a 100-point year in his second year. I'm with Anthony on this. I think they're going to be in on Chychrun. And you know what? If Larry Brooks is saying that a major change is coming, this may be hot take, and you may come back and bookmark this and whatever the case may be, but something tells me that they might try to open up a complete blockbuster of a deal and try to get both Tkachuk and Chychrun. And multiple pieces may be moved, including guys like Keandre Miller, to make that happen. So we'll see.
Phil, I think that's definitely a swing for the fences type move, but also I wonder if that's overkill. I wonder whether or not the Rangers would be better off trying to make the bottom 6 tougher, because you get a tougher.
But it's not just the bottom 6. All right. The bottom 6 sucked. That third line was terrible from the minute the cap series ended. Capo Caco was a complete non-factor. Wenberg was awful. Probably should have been on their 4th line. And Will Cooley was the only guy that was doing anything. And he was running around hitting everybody that he could hit. But
they had the lowest goals at expected goals, though.
What they should have done is they should have friggin' dealt for Yanni Gordon, not Alexander Wenberg.
Yeah. And then you know what you could have done? Going back to what you said before. LTIR, Trouba, he comes back in the playoffs and you bottom pair
get Gord.
And then you go get Yanni Gord. And then we're not arguing about who was the top line right wing.
No offense, but what series did I watch? Listen, I get it, he's your boy. But if you think Capo Caco was good after the Capitals series ended, I don't know what you're watching.
Phil, how many shots did Capo Caco have in the Florida series?
0.
4.
There you go.
4 shots.
That tells you how little of a factor that he was. He was too slow to keep up with them. He was too slow to keep up with Carolina. He was scratched. He wasn't good. And he wasn't exactly great during the Washington series either. He was okay. He wasn't great. Like are we trying to make him out that he was having a Brian Noonan 94 first 2 rounds type performance? Stop, please. Give me a break.
Yeah, I mean
speed is definitely his problem. He can't skate. He needs to work on it. He works with the same trainer that Mikko Rantanen does in the off seasons. Then what the hell is he doing with his skating?
Here's Capo Caco's line: 10 hits in the entire Florida series. He had 3 takeaways. That's usually
the bar is low there. That third line was not good after the Capital series, and they weren't great in the Capital series. They were all right. They weren't bad, but they weren't great.
0 for 0, -3, 4 shots on net. You're not winning with that.
No, this was never proven. And not only that, but Frank Vetrano made several videos about coming back to New York. So that's definitely false.
By the way, thank you for the 125 of you guys watching right now. We got a lot more.
You think that line was one of the best lines in that series? Oh man, the revisionist history and mental gymnastics with some is fun. I'm sorry,
Leo. I gotta, and again, I was a big believer in Kako. I'm not anymore. To borrow my line or a bad pun, as far as he goes in New York, he's finished. So
he got 1 goal in that series, and that was in Game 4. And the reason why he got that was because Nick Jensen screwed up and gave the puck to him on a silver platter in the middle of the ice in the slot. I can't. I've had enough with the whole analytics, people going crazy over some sort of defensive analytic. Okay, if Capo Caco was so good defensively, where are the Selke votes?
Yeah.
Not even one homer vote from one of the New York writers?
No.
None.
And by the way, and as Ranger Central saying right here, might as well call him the Corsi line. Like,
sorry, he's just not that good. Can he salvage an NHL career? Yes.
Absolutely. I think he's going to figure it out either on the next one or the one after that. Because here's the thing. We talked about this with JT Miller, where it's, hey, what's going on? All right.
This right here. Why is he not killing penalties if he's so good defensively? You want to know why? Because he's not fast enough. Yeah. He's not fast enough. That's it. That's it. You want to know why he can't generate offense at this level? I'm going to give you the reason why. Because he cannot attack the middle because of a lack of speed. He's too slow. You want to know why he has no confidence to do that? Because he knows he's too slow.
At least he knows. I'll tell you that. Because after all, there's another player who was limited supposedly because of his skating. And
you know what? I hope I eat my words. But as of right now, as of this very moment, as of 6:47 on June 5th, 2024, Capo Caco is one of the worst skaters in the league.
Yeah. Yeah.
Go argue a brick wall for all I care. If you took his footage to a skating coach, I guarantee you they would find so many things wrong with his technique, with his mechanics.
And by the way, how do you make him any slower? You call him Blake Wheeler. That's the other thing. Yes, he's a free agent and he's gone. It doesn't matter if he's retiring or not. He's gone.
No, the problem is that you're saying that he was good. He wasn't. He wasn't. Like, I get it. Yeah. He's your favorite player, one of your favorite players. And fandom blinds people. I love this team more than anything in the world. But I'm sorry. Like, he wasn't good. He wasn't a factor. He wasn't. That whole third line was terrible. You want to blame Alex Wennberg? Yeah, Alex Wennberg. Oh, yeah, that's debatable, TC. That's absolutely debatable. Listen, I'm not saying Capo Caco is a terrible skater. And nobody's saying he's the reason they lost. I'm responding to a comment that said that he was good. No, he wasn't good. And he wasn't good. And that's why he was scratched.
And by the way, nobody's saying he's the reason why they lost, but we have to figure out where the Rangers can improve. Because if they're not going to improve in their top 6, that's not the right wing on the first line.
Why did we take him at 2? Because he was the consensus 2. He was the consensus 2 in that draft for about 2 years before that draft happened.
And he only furthered it with his performance at the World Juniors and his performance at the
World Championships against men. Yes.
Yeah, against men. I mean, and then let's not forget, his first 6 weeks was pretty good as a New York Ranger. And then he took the penalty in Calgary in a game that, if I recall correctly, you said he scored in that, Filk.
He had 2 points in that game. It was his best game to that point. And then he took that penalty, which really wasn't even a penalty, and then David Quinn benched him. Yeah. And you know what? It's terrible. I can understand why people would think this. I don't know if that's necessarily the case, because Puljujarvi is not even an NHL player at this point. He's barely an NHL player, if anything. But I mean, he was the guy at 2. There was no other team that got the 2nd overall pick would have taken anybody else. You want to talk about Zegras, Doc, Cousins, all those other players? Nobody would have taken them at 2. No one.
This is pretty damning. Kakko is Fredo, weak and stupid. Also, look at his face whenever he's whenever he enters the ice, like a guy jumping out of a plane with no parachute.
Yeah, I hate his body language and his facial expressions because he always looks like he's distressed. Even when he scores goals, he's not happy. There's no confidence. Is he depressed? Does he suffer from, like, if he legitimately suffers from mental illness and like depression or something like that, then by all means, like, have him seek like legitimate professional help. A sports psychologist, an actual psychologist, something, because he never looks happy. He always looks miserable.
And Phil, I use the metaphor for golf all the time whenever it comes to this. And when you're piping the ball down the middle of the fairway, you almost can't wait to take your next shot. Same thing as goal scoring. And when you score, you can't wait to get it. And he is, and I guarantee if we look at his splits and his game logs, you're going to see goal, assist, and then zeros. Lots of zeros. Because that's what he is. When he's hot, he's hot. When he's not, he's not. And it's not just celiacs. It's not that. He's got a diabetic issue, but it's one of those things of, I think that snake bit. Look, yes, Poppin sucks because he has it all the time, and it's just so rough. And I think part of it has to do with him suffering mentally from adjusting to a new city and then getting his playing time ripped away by David Quinn, and he never recovered. Because if you remember his first season, didn't they bring in it wasn't Tomo Rutu, it was the other one that they brought in, right?
Didn't they bring in Tomo Rutu that was brought into the organization?
Oh, okay. Well, Tomo Rutu never taught him how to step on people's skates, but he at least was a positive influence on him and at least helped him mentally get back in there. But it's just,
yeah, I mean, obviously there's a lot more to just like development, but like it's just something with his body language just always just looks off. Like he never looks happy. He looks like he just doesn't have any confidence in himself. Like it looks like it's something that may extend outside of hockey.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't, like, but you know, no one's making excuses. We're trying to evaluate like what could actually be wrong here.
Yeah, we do need to eventually start.
Okay, why are we going to go to get Nikolai Ehlers? And I've said this on other people on Twitter.
Yeah,
why are we going to go get Nikolai Ehlers because he has great 5-on-5 numbers? Okay, he's another player that doesn't play north-south, plays east-west, doesn't play a physical game, and he doesn't score goals. He's a playmaker.
All right, by the way, since we're talking about the right wing spot, let me just say this. I'm eating crow on it because I said you had to play Kakko, you had to play Lafreniere, and it has not worked out. So about trading Buchnevich, it has not worked out. They should have kept Buchnevich. So I did say he was going to price himself out.
Okay, but how much would Pavel Buchnevich have made a difference in this series?
That's a great question. And you know what? That's a tough one to answer too.
He's not a guy that plays a very physical game, very north-south game. Now, listen, I'm not again, this has nothing to do with where you're coming from or what nationality you are, what flag you play for. But Buchnevich is not a very physical player. They needed a physical north-south player. And you know what? Here you are. Small, but plays physical, plays north-south, goes to the dirty areas. That's the guy. He's actually shorter than Panarin. He weighs more than Panarin, but he's shorter than Panarin and plays harder.
By the way, here's the funny part. This was only supposed to be like our first 15 minutes. We're going into hour 2 on this. Phil, let's do a couple more minutes on this, and then we'll move to the Stanley Cup Finals preview. But as far as this team goes, and look, and I know people were talking about Roslovic also in the comments. Roslovic, it was a stopgap solution. He was a guy that they picked up at the trade deadline.
That was a terrible move.
And he's gone. There's nothing else about Roslovic.
He's allergic to doing anything that involves defense or physical play. Gone. No, this is it. Talk. Not happening. He doesn't want to leave Buffalo.
He's from Buffalo. He wants to be there.
Yeah, he doesn't want to. Yeah. Marchessault is probably the guy that I think they would go after because I think he would be somebody that embodies winning, playing the style that they want to play, and can help. And God forbid they keep Zibanejad and Kreider together, can help that line out. But
and it's one of those things. Again, just kind of looking at the Rangers, it is.
Find this as depth. Vegas has 3 guys I would look into for depth: Nick Hague, Michael Amadio, and then Brady McNabb. And that's outside of Marchessault if you want to make Marchessault your big swing move. But those are 3 guys that I would look into and say, hey, you know what? They could use some depth, and Amadio would actually be a good addition.
Phil, the other question would be: is there like a Matt Zuccarello type of player that plays a physical game that you could think of?
That's basically Marchessault, but he's more of a goal scorer.
Yeah, I mean, because the problem is with that top line is you don't have a passer. That's what I find.
Martinook wouldn't be a bad addition as a depth player in the bottom 6.
Again, that bottom 6, the Rangers really need some work. So,
but I honestly think that they're going to go with the younger approach in the bottom 6. Yeah, I do agree here. Mika's body language is another one. It's awful. He just looks like he's just.
Well, do you buy into anything about him being injured?
You talking about the cross-check for Brent Burns?
Yeah, or Brent Burns, I'm sorry.
I would be more inclined to believe it if he didn't disappear in the Tampa series after Game 3.
Yeah.
I would really be more inclined to believe it then. But no, I don't. And I think that this guy dragged horribly throughout the regular season, had his worst year ever. Or not worst year ever, but he had his worst year in about 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
I don't buy the injury excuse. I don't. I like Lafferty though. I do, and I said that was somebody that I would have liked him who traded for during the season, but Vancouver ended up doing well, and Lafferty ended up staying.
Well, it's going to be interesting to see what moves they're going to make. July 1st is coming up around the corner. Hell, the draft is coming up. It's in 3 weeks. But we're going to talk about the Stanley Cup Finals. First, we're just going to get a message from DraftKings. Hockey fans light the lamp this winter with DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NHL. New customers can bet just $5 pregame moneyline on any NHL team to win their game and get $150 in free bets if they do. If that wasn't enough excitement, you can turn small bets into bigger payouts with same-game parlays. Combine multiple bets like which team will win, how many goals will be scored, and more for your shot at an even bigger payout. Download the DraftKings Sports app now. Use promo code THPN. Bet $5 on any NHL team to win their game and get $150 in free bets if they do. Only at the DraftKings Sportsbook with code THPN. All right, Filk. So we have the Stanley Cup Finals that is starting on Saturday. Florida Panthers and the Edmonton Oilers. First off, by the way, well, give it to me in your series overview because I'm going to spotlight you for a second. This has got to be the matchup nobody saw coming. Like that Florida versus Edmonton. You figured maybe Florida versus Dallas. We all kind of crowned Dallas. And I know I had them going to the Stanley Cup Finals. I think I had winning it. You had them going to the Stanley Cup Finals at the beginning of the year, right?
Dallas, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's just unreal, Filk. But, all right. I would love to hear your thoughts about this one. I have my article up on X about this, about Destiny awaiting. Filk, what is your thoughts on this series?
You know, the Edmonton Oilers are really kind of a surprise in the not just the fact that they've gotten to this point, but the fact that they're playing as well defensively as they have. And it's a credit to Chris Knobloch to getting that team to play a very sound and structured defensive game, and for him to be able to get the defense that he's gotten out of that corpse, because that corpse is not great on paper. Like your two best defenders are Ekholm and then Bouchard, and then you have Darnell Nurse right there, and then after that, what is it, Cody Ceci? I mean, Philip Broberg has now jumped back into the fray since he's come back from his injury. It's not a great group on paper, but they're getting a lot. They're getting the sum of their parts. Basically, it's crazy to think about. Adam Henrique has been good for them. Corey Perry coming back into the lineup helped them out quite a bit. McDavid has just been McDavid, another 30-point postseason before even getting to the Stanley Cup Finals. Like how does this guy have 30 points in the playoffs before the Stanley Cup Finals, and he's still not a 2-point per game player? Like this is the guy that I think last year, I think it was he had. He was over a 2-point per game pace in the playoffs, and if he would have gotten to the Stanley Cup Finals, I think that he would have had. It would have been the second player in NHL history to have a 40-point, or third rather, to be a 40-point postseason. Just nuts when you think about it. But they're there. It's not just McDavid and Draisaitl. Hyman's been really good for them. Connor Brown has been great. Yeah, that goal that he toed on Miro Heiskanen is stupid. And it just goes to show you that Connor McDavid can just toy with people when he wants to. I think this is going to be a tougher matchup for Florida than the Rangers because I think their defense is better at moving the puck out of the zone. I think they have a more mobile defense. I think guys like Bouchard can give them problems. I think Ekholm is better than moving the puck. I think they're facing a bigger, more mobile, and more healthy defense this time around. And not only that, but McDavid and Draisaitl can lug that puck out of the zone with ease. Nugent Hopkins is a very good skater that can move it. Ryan McLeod in a bottom six role is great. Dylan Holloway is coming up. I mean, Connor Brown has been huge for them. Huge. Nobody would have thought that would have been a big addition to them. He's been great for them. Really good for them. Again, I think that they're going to give Florida more of a run than people are expecting, and they maybe could even win it. Because Florida is now going to have to answer not just to Mika Zibanejad and Vinny Trocheck. They're going to have to answer to Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see it. And I think a lot of the calls that Florida has gotten away with they're not going to get away with against Edmonton because Edmonton is one of their cash cows right now. I think that they're going to call things tighter. When they start doing things to McDavid that they were doing to the Rangers, they're going to get called for it. So,
and Phil, just to echo one of the things you said about McDavid has 26 assists in the playoffs.
Yes.
Two players have more points than he has just assists, and they're both his teammates.
Yep.
That is scary. That is very, very, very scary. So we're going to get Anthony back in a second, but I'll start the X Factors. And one of my X Factors, I kind of, in the article I have that I go forward, I just think the Florida Sport Check is going to be just absolutely devastating for Edmonton. I know that you were saying before that Edmonton's able to move the puck a little bit better. The Florida brings that same forecheck they did against the Rangers. Good night. It's already over. And the other part of that is, I think Edmonton, the way they've been restricting shots on net and their defense ever since Game 6 against the Vancouver Canucks, it can't be understated. Knobloch has gotten this team to finally play this defensive style that could win them a Stanley Cup, and it's shown up in Stuart Skinner's play. Skinner has been much better since then. You don't see him with a 793 save percentage. It's I can get the number for you in a second, but it's very. Yeah, you know what? Maybe
that's the thing. You talk about that forecheck, and Edmonton just did the same thing to Dallas that Florida did to the Rangers, and that's why everybody's saying Panthers in 5, Panthers in 4. You're in for a surprise. I really do think you're in for a surprise, and I'm not going to sit here and downplay Alexander Barkov and his factor, how much of a factor he was in that series and shutting down Mika Zibanejad, but he's going to be going against Connor McDavid, not Mika Zibanejad.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what that means? He can only do that against one line. That other line, that Leon Draisaitl line, is going to be wide open. And who is going to handle that line? Who? Lundell? Good luck with that.
Yeah, I mean, I have sung the praises of Anton Lundell for a while. That's a tall order to ask him to stop Leon Draisaitl. Barkov, though, he could, if he does neutralize McDavid, which, by the way, what exactly is neutralizing McDavid? He only gets 7-8 points in this series?
Yeah, that's a thing. I mean, you're talking about neutral. Like, Connor McDavid is not going to get shut down to the point where he has no points in this series. I hope people know that because no matter how bad he is, he still puts up points. And he still puts up points in bunches. So I think that there are a lot of people that are sitting there overhyping Florida and the job that they did on the Rangers. But the Oilers stars have proven that they show up in the big spots. The Rangers' big stars did not, outside of Trocheck and Lafreniere. Mm-hmm. And those are guys that are at the bottom of the big star tier. Your Panarins, your Kreiders, and your Zibanejad didn't show up.
Well, remember that press conference Paul Maurice had where somebody asked him how many giveaways they had on the sheet, and it was just one? I think it was after Game 5. And he laughed it off and just said, who was it, Eke? It was Aaron Ekblad. And he goes, oh, he's getting benched for that. I mean, that's where they are right now, Filk. They're going to be there, and, this is a tough series to call. What X factors do you have going?
Honestly, looking at it, I would really look at Edmonton's ability to move the puck because everybody's talking about the forecheck on Florida. I think Edmonton's ability to move the puck is far better than the Rangers. Mm-hmm. I think their transition game is better. I think their 5-on-5 game is far better than the Rangers. And that's why the Rangers lost, because they couldn't score at 5-on-5. And then their power play got neutralized. Florida, I don't know how they neutralize that power play of Edmonton's. Edmonton's power play is the best power play in the league, hands down. It's not even close.
Filk, let's go one more step, because we're sitting here talking about Florida neutralizing Edmonton's power play. How about Edmonton neutralizing Florida's power play? Because Edmonton is killing penalties at a 93.9% clip. Wow.
Yeah, I was going to say Edmonton did a job on Dallas. And a lot of people, I saw a comment in the stat saying, well, the stars didn't show up. Okay. So you're not going to credit Edmonton for that, but you're going to credit Florida for doing that to the Rangers?
Yep.
Can't have it both ways.
And again, this is something that when you're looking at Edmonton, now one thing about Florida is they're almost up there since the Boston series. I think they were like middle of the pack at the first round, but since the Boston series, they've been killing it at about I think it was a 91 or 92%. I had the number for you. I don't have my notes in front of me right now, but it's just, there's a lot that Florida can kind of come back with. Again, I think one of those things that's going to neutralize things, and we'll get to the under the radar players. I'll start with you in a second, but I look at the goaltending matchup and I see that this clearly goes to Florida. But again, if Stuart Skinner is the one that was playing the last 6 games, and I have that number for you since his benching, he has a 181 goals against and a 919 save percentage. That is incredible. And I mean, you got to love the job that Chris Knobloch has done. And it's funny, Phil, because he's a guy that I said the Rangers had to go away from the rookie head coach because it doesn't happen. And he goes to Edmonton and he brings them to the Stanley Cup Finals. So, Phil, under the radar, what's a player you got? Or one in each?
Zach Hyman.
Really?
Zach Hyman. I would look for him to call it. The big thing with the Rangers is that they weren't able to attack the middle. Even Chris Kreider just get to the middle of the front of the net, whatnot. Zach Hyman is going to be called upon to make Aaron Ekblad's life hell. And I tell you, he plays a lot harder of the game than Chris Kreider does. And everybody wants to talk about, Zach Hyman is a Connor McDavid tap-in merchant. Okay. They're going to need that in this series against Florida. Because Zach Hyman going to the front of the net and taking Aaron Ekblad with him, you know what that does? Opens up all of that space for Connor McDavid to run around and do whatever the hell he wants. So if you neutralize Ekblad by having Hyman in front of that net, because if Ekblad doesn't move Hyman in front of the net, that means that Forsling is going to have to step up big time on McDavid. And can Forsling shut down McDavid? I don't think he can.
Phil, by the way, you got to love the Zach Hyman's just a Connor McDavid tap-in merchant, or back when you could say the same thing about Chris Kunitz back in the day with Sidney Crosby. But if it was so easy, why doesn't everybody else?
This is a big thing. Zone entries were a huge issue for Rangers. Huge issue for the Rangers. Mm-hmm. Connor McDavid is the ultimate cheat code at zone entries.
Yep.
And his speed is going to back that defense right off the line. Even Leon Draisaitl. Leon Draisaitl is not known as a burner, but he is a deceptively fast skater. And he is very good at making moves at that line and making defenders absolutely miss and look stupid. So I'm telling you right now, this is going to be a lot more even of a series than you think.
Yeah, I have to agree with you on that one. And who do you got for the Panthers for an under the radar guy?
This is a tough one. I'm going to say Lundell because
yeah, he's mine too.
It's whether or not he can neutralize one of McDavid or Draisaitl, and let's just say they're in Edmonton and they get that change and they get McDavid away from Barkov, like that's going to be a big problem because then you're going to ask Lundell to shut down Connor McDavid, and I don't think that's happening. So if Lundell is going to be on one of either McDavid or Draisaitl this entire series, and this is going to be a lot to ask of Anton Lundell. It really is.
And Phil, just to keep that going, Anton Lundell had 3 points in the Eastern Conference Finals, a goal and an assist in the last 2 games. The goal ended up being the go-ahead goal in Game 5, the biggest goal probably the Panthers, arguably in their history. You might look back on it and think. And the assist to Tarasenko, which was the Eastern Conference clincher. I mean, he just put that puck right where I think it was right past Miller or Schneider, and well, both of them actually. And that was the series winner. So I mean, he's looking like a guy that's going to be there. Anthony, I'm gonna say my under the radar guy for Edmonton because Filk already took Lundell from me, and then I got yours. But my under the radar guy is actually Adam Henrique. Adam Henrique, when he was with the Devils that first year, I believe it was his rookie year, he just was made for the big moment. He had 2 OT clinchers in the 2012 playoffs. I mean, this guy, if he's going to be able to harness that, it might be a long series for the Panthers. Anthony, who do you have for your under radar players?
For Florida, I'm gonna go Lusterainen. I thought he was great in the Rangers series. He made some big plays. He forechecked. He was a little bit of a pest. I think a guy like him could come up clutch this series against the Oilers. Usually are in the finals. It's those unsung heroes. And for Edmonton, I mean, I wouldn't exactly call him under the radar player because he scored 50 goals, but I'm going to go Zach Hyman. I mean, all eyes are going to be on Draisaitl and McDavid. If Hyman can get loose and score a couple of goals and kind of give those 2 big guns some offensive support, I think that will go a long way for the Oilers. But those are my 2. And particularly for Florida, again, I think a guy like Lusterainen can be a thorn. Phil mentioned Lundell trying to shut down McDavid, but Lusterainen is a hard-nosed player. He could skate well. I look to him to try to bang Draisaitl and McDavid as much as he can.
Yeah, I saw that comment from Jay. Yeah, Corey Perry is going to be just as much of a pain in the ass as Sam Bennett is. So I don't understand why anyone would think that Perry. No, Perry's been playing. He's been playing.
He's back. He's back.
He's there.
By the way, Corey Perry, the first player to play for 5 teams in the Stanley Cup Finals. Hard to believe that one.
Man, yeah. Claude Lemieux must be rolling in his grave right now. Him and Mike Keane. Mr. I followed the cup followed me.
Didn't Perry
Claude Lemieux only had 3, right?
What?
Claude Lemieux had 3. The Canadiens, the Devils, and the Avalanche, right?
And the Devils again. He had 4 Stanley Cups.
Well, yeah, but I mean, it's 3 different franchises.
Yes.
Didn't Perry lose 3 cups in a row?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He couldn't pull the Hossa and get it on
the time. Yeah.
Well, the Hossa found a way to make sure he stuck with an organization longer. I think it's even odder for me. Hossa lost back-to-back years with both teams that were in the Stanley Cup Finals. I mean, that's just odd. So, all right. Anthony, do you have an X factor, by the way, you're looking into the series?
I mean, I think, yeah, I kind of do. We all know that Bobrovsky in Florida get the nod with the goalie matchup, but if Stuart Skinner can kind of, rise to Bob's level, I think that could go. I think that'd go a long way for the Oilers. I mean, we all know that Draisaitl and McDavid, they're going to score goals. They're going to give the Oilers points. But it's a matter of, can the Oilers keep the puck out of their net with Florida's big guns and Verhaeghe, Reinhart, Barkov, Bennett. So, if Stuart Skinner can raise his game a couple of notches and match that of Bob's, because Bob's going to bring it, that could make the series even closer.
All right. Well, gonna see if I can stretch this out for just another second to get Filk back in, because we're gonna do prediction time. This is the biggest prediction and the last one we're gonna have all season. Just wow. I can't believe we're already up to the Stanley Cup Finals. It feels like yesterday I was still in Hicksville, the previous place, doing the season preview with you guys and giving my Stanley Cup predictor. I mean, I just can't believe Edmonton's just done such a great job.
What's wild is that I think both general managers were asked this question. I don't know if it was Friedman that was doing the story on it or who, but he was talking about how the Game 7, if it goes that far, would be on June 24th. The draft 4 days later on the 28th, and then free agency 3 days after that. So they were asked, like, what they thought about that was, and they're like, listen, if they both kind of said at the beginning of the year, if you would tell me that would be our biggest problem, he's like, I would take it and run. But these teams right here, if it goes the distance, they're gonna have to turn it around for a pretty quick off season and get their pro scouting done and transition. So it's gonna be a wild ride, really. The Stanley Cup Finals right into all of the silly season. So but again, those two teams will gladly take short off seasons and have to hurry in to get all that in order if it means them winning a Stanley Cup. But it is pretty funny how that's going to turn out.
Yeah, that's insane on that turnaround. But Anthony, we'll get this started. We'll have Filk go last. Who do you have in the series hoisting the Stanley Cup, and who will be awarded the Conn Smythe?
I think the Panthers are going to take it in 6, and their netminder John Van Beesbrook is going to win the Conn Smythe.
He could have in that sweep.
Yeah. I think Ed Jovanowski is going to be big with blocking shots. So that's my pick. But
hey, don't forget Tom Fitzgerald. He's going to be huge in the series.
Yeah, but seriously, still the Panthers in 6. And my Conn Smythe winner is Barkov. I think, you got to remember, Conn Smythe isn't just the finals, it's the playoffs as a whole. And, while I think Sam Bennett could be immensely important for Florida this series, I think Barkov is going to win it for Florida.
Yeah, I have the Panthers in 6. Phil, you should have heard the name drops that.
I heard. Anthony, is Paul Laus going to be playing 25 minutes a game for Florida on the blue line?
Yeah.
Phil, my guy, I have the same thing as Anthony. I have the Panthers in 6. I actually, I'm agreeing with you before. I think this is a much tougher matchup, and I give all credit to Chris Knobloch, who has finally gotten Edmonton to play a playoff Stanley Cup style. Like, I mean, this is a team that finally looks like they could fulfill the promise that they can. I just see Florida being one step ahead of them, and I can't say how many times I thought to myself, God damn it, Barkov, every time in the Eastern Conference Finals. And he was everywhere, smothering everything. And then he created his own offense. So I just think Barkov is the Conn Smythe, and I think the Panthers in 6. Filk?
Oilers in 4 games. Mike Krushelnyski wins the Conn Smythe Trophy, scoring 10 points in 4 games.
Wait, what about Todd Marchand?
No, Todd Marchand got scratched. He got scratched for Fernando Pisani. Yeah. So, but no, seriously, I gotta say Florida probably in 7. I think this is going to be a tougher series than people think. I think people are really underestimating Edmonton's ability to move the puck and the fact that they're going to be able to exit and enter Florida's zone with greater ease than the Rangers ever could. I also think that a lot of people really haven't watched the Dallas series, and they really don't understand what Edmonton is doing defensively to teams. Dallas is a deeper roster than Florida, and they need mincemeat of that roster. And they're going to take that confidence into this series. I honestly wouldn't be shocked if Edmonton won. Really wouldn't. It would not shock me at all. So I think if Edmonton wins, they do win it in 7. But I'm going to say Florida in 7 just because I do see that Florida plays a mean, nasty game, and I think that's going to be a factor in this series. I think ultimately, though, it comes down to goaltending for me, and Bobrovsky is a better goaltender than Skinner, and that's really what's going to do it.
Do you have Bob as the Conn Smythe?
No, I would have Markov.
I mean, we were unanimous when it came to the Rangers versus the Panthers in the last round. This would be a whole other animal if all of us got Barkov winning the Conn Smythe and the Panthers winning. But the way that Edmonton's won the last 3 games, you really can see Edmonton winning this Stanley Cup, right?
Absolutely.
No, absolutely.
I think, again, I'll say this again. The biggest thing for me is the fact that you can stick Zach Hyman in front of that net, and he could take Aaron Ekblad out of the play. And that creates a ton of room for Connor McDavid to run around and do what he wants. And you talk about, he's a tap-in merchant, Zach Hyman. I mean, think about it, Anthony. You watched something like this years and years ago with Matt Molson and John Tavares. Hi, Giuseppe.
Yeah.
But, I just think it's funny that he's just sitting there and he's all nice and quiet and everything. But you know, Matt Molson did that with John Tavares. And it gave John Tavares so much room to run around on the ice and score points. McDavid can do what Tavares does and do it 10 times better and 10 times faster. So that's going to cause a problem for Florida. Not only that, but all the zone entries. The Rangers could not enter Florida's zone. They couldn't set up a forecheck. Edmonton's going to be able to do a better job of that than the Rangers did. And you know, people don't understand this. So I honestly think that this is going to be a more evenly played series than people think.
Yeah, this is going to just be absolutely crazy. And everybody was kind of saying this might be the nightmare for ESPN and the NHL. You're talking about the biggest star in the NHL, finally on the biggest stage. And he's been waiting for this his entire life. I think he's gonna surpass 40 points in the playoffs. So that means he just needs 9 in this series. He'll do that in the
Yeah, I think he'll definitely do that.
I mean, he's I think I heard this
shocked if he didn't break the 40-point mark.
I think I heard this correctly. He's the 6th player to score 30 points in a playoff in 2 playoff years or multiple playoff years.
Gretzky, Lemieux.
6 times. Lemieux.
I don't think anyone else has done it multiple times, though.
I think it was, or maybe it was just once. Because Gretzky did it 6 times. I remember that as being
Gretzky and Gretzky also was the only one with multiple 40-point seasons.
Yeah. Curry, I know, is in there.
Curry had a 30-point season, but I don't think he did it multiple times.
Messier,
Leach, Malkin, Crosby, Kuznetsov.
So I mean, it's absolutely just incredible. What the real and for people thinking this is going to be a boring series, again, I'm just going to laugh about that one. You got Connor McDavid in the finals, and you think anything's going to be boring around Matthew Tkachuk? Absolutely not. I mean, I'm trying to think of what my fiance's name for Matthew Tkachuk was. So, all right, she just stated how much she hated him. That was about it. But yeah. So
did you do bar talk?
We actually didn't do bar talk. How are we doing on time, guys? Can you guys stick around for a little bit longer?
Yeah, I could.
Okay, so guys, let's go do about the fastest bar talk that we can, and because thank you all everybody for sticking around on this one. We're really working overtime today. Let's go.
Shot. This is the easiest I've ever had to answer.
I'm going to say beer. I can't even begin to describe.
I'm actually going to go crazy. I'm going to buy everybody around on this one. Welcome back, everybody, to Big Apple Hockey's Bar Talk. We're gauging our confidence on NHL topics based on our choice to drink. You use a confidence. You buy it around, so have a beer, or oh dear God, give me a shot. Please play along in the comments down below, and of course, the Big Apple Hockey hats, trucker hats, and shirts are available. Click the link in the description below. We actually talked an abundance about the New York Rangers today, so we're going to skip them in their usual bar talk lead off. But we will go over to the other side of the island, and Vegas winger.
You don't have to skip the Rangers. Why are we doing?
All right. Do you have a quick one? Do you want to throw in there?
You had it.
Oh,
You had it in there. Didn't you about Hedel in the notes? Didn't you have something about the Rangers should move on from Phil Hedel?
Yeah, but I had it in there, but then I said, all right, well, I'll repeat it again. Hold on. The Rangers we'll go with this one first, Filk. The Rangers should move on from Philip Hedel.
Oh yeah. I don't want to say round, like I'm leaning towards it, but I gotta say beer just because I do feel like they should, but I can't say round. I feel like he's one hit away from retirement. I really do, and it's sad. I don't know if he'll ever be that same player. I mean, I've seen this with Pat LaFontaine. I've seen this with Eric Lindros. I mean, Lindros was bad because it was one small concussion. It was December of 2001 in San Jose. Marc Smith, and it wasn't even a big hit. Mm-hmm. And Lindros had a 36-goal point per game season his first year in New York, and then just wasn't the same player after that. Just wasn't the same player. And yeah, I can't say round for sure, but I'm going to say beer.
Anthony, what do you think?
I'm going to go beer only because he missed so much time. I feel like they would be selling low right now on him if they traded him. So I don't know what you would get because obviously there would be teams, as Filk mentioned, be concerned about, his health going forward. And so I'm of the belief the Rangers should hang on to him, hope that he works hard this summer, comes back healthy, and, proves that he could still be an effective, top 6 player. So I think they should bring him back and hope that he gets his health in order.
I got to buy around on this one. And it's certainly not anything against Philip Hedel. The kid is a great kid. He's a very good player. If his health is in order, the Rangers are going to be just fine. Or he would just be just fine. And apparently now I am just talking to myself. It's just me and you guys right now. Here's where I get to with Philip Hedel, guys. The Rangers have to get tougher in their bottom 6. And you can't have finesse up and down the lineup like that. I like that. Again, Philip Hedel, great kid, 24 years old still. I mean, you're still talking about one of the youngest New York Rangers on the roster. And 24 years old, and he'll be 25 in September. But Philip Hedel is they need to get a more grinded out type of center on that bottom line. And a defensive center that you can use in matchups when you don't want to use the Banishad or Trocheck against someone.
Gord.
Yeah, imagine if it's Yanni Gord. How about that one? Let's go right with that one. Yanni Gord would be a great question on that one, or a great solution. Well, I started saying before, guys, Vegas winger and 2022 Conn Smythe Trophy winner Jonathan Marchessault is a free agent this year. Despite his age, Jonathan Marchessault would be a good fit for the New York Islanders. Mr. LaRocco.
Actually, beer. I think that, this is a guy that Waugh coached for 4 years in the Q. So I think if he does hit the market, I think at the very least Waugh's going to reach out to him. I know the Islanders need to get younger. I'm not denying that. There's no doubt about it. Marchessault, I think, is 33, going on 34. But according to Daily Faceoff, when Saravilli did like the top 75 UFA projections, what their contracts are, he said that Marchessault will only get like 3 years. So Marchessault till he's 36, 37 isn't the worst thing in the world. I mean, is he going to score 42 goals again? Probably not. But I mean, he does have good scoring ability, and I think he might be able to work well with Barzal and Horvat on the top line. So I prefer to go younger, but, if Waugh convinced him, I still think he has some game left in him. So I'll go beer here.
Filk, what do you think?
Round. Absolute round. Why would you not want this guy? This guy, he's proven he can do it in the playoffs. He fits exactly what the Islanders want. He's got a Stanley Cup ring. He had 13 goals to lead all postseason players in 2023 last year. I mean, I just don't understand how. All right, so age aside, I don't understand why this guy wouldn't be a perfect fit for the Islanders. Plays the up-tempo game they want. He's a pain in the ass to play against. He scores goals, which they've lacked for years. Even if he's not a 40-goal scorer, I think he's still a 35-plus goal scorer on almost any team he goes to. He has 2 other 30-goal seasons in Vegas. So, I mean, I get it. You don't think he's going to do the same thing without Jack Eichel. Okay, fine, fair. Totally fair. Completely understandable argument. But this is a dog right here, as the kids say these days. He's got that dog in him. And I personally, I hope the Rangers would swing for the fence and go for a guy like this if they're not going to blow things up. So the Islanders, they would be stupid not to sign him if he wanted to come to the Islands. Round.
The question is, would he be a good fit? Bill, you upgraded me from beer to round in that answer. So, yeah, I'm going to go with a round on this one. I think, you know what? I think you probably put him with maybe you put him with Brock Nelson instead of.
Does it matter who you put him with? He would look excellent with Barzal and Horvat. He would be the other guy on that line. If you want to put him with Nelson, he looks excellent with him too, probably.
Yeah. I mean, if you look at him on that top line, if he was playing with that's a hell of a top line for the.
That's a disgusting top line. That's not a top line I'd want to face.
Yeah.
That speed and that scoring, no thanks.
By the way, you know what top line looked really incredible last year? The New Jersey Devils, when they had especially early on with Foley and Bratt and Hughes, thought they were going to be gangbusters, but they need help. They need a goaltender for sure. And Tom Fitzgerald says the 10th overall pick is in play. The Devils will land their franchise goalie by trading the 10th overall pick, Mr. Fokowski.
Context.
Well, I did
trading more with that pick.
The pick is going to be in the trade.
Okay. I'm going to go beer.
Okay.
I think there's going to be more that's going to be needed to get that goaltender, but I do think they will end up with one of these goaltenders. What is going on in the background over there, Anthony?
I'm laughing at.
We're focusing on my misspelling.
Yeah.
Soros, yeah.
Soros.
Yeah, I actually did Soros.
Yeah, wow.
Soros.
Yeah, George Soros is going to go play.
Yeah.
That's okay. He almost called Stepan Matto Walter Matthau in a group chat the other day. I didn't correct it, but he did do that. So we can do double Mark messed up for that.
Well, we haven't had that for a little while. Let's get the GIF on that one.
Oh man.
So,
yeah.
There we go.
But I could see it happening. I think there's just going to be more with that. That's going to have to. I think it's going to be a bigger deal. To tell you the truth, I don't think it's going to be like what New Jersey did to get Corey Schneider 10 years or 11 years ago. So yeah, those Soros-funded defensive forwards. I'm surprised they didn't call him George Parros.
Yeah, I still know who he is.
Yeah, but I'm gonna go beer here.
Anthony, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you specified specifically that their 10th overall pick, but what I will say is Tom Fitzgerald has been very vocal and open what his intentions are in finding a legitimate goaltender. So I'm going to go round. I'm going to say he definitely acquires one of these guys, or maybe even lump Gibson into it. But I think either Markstrom, Ullmark. I'm not so much sure about Saros, but I think he definitely acquires Markstrom or Ullmark. So I'm going to go round.
I think he has to leave the draft with one of these guys. If not them, yeah, we'll lump Gibson in there. If you're telling me it ends up being like Samsonov or something like that, like no,
he's not. Well, he's going. He's doing it right. Fitzgerald, I'm telling you, he's gonna get a legitimate starter. It's gonna be one of these guys.
Yeah, I'm gonna go there, and I believe it is. Oh no, Filk said beer, so it's not a hat trick for us, but it's one of those things, Anthony. It has to happen. The Devils, if they want to compete next year, you're not gonna do it with Jake Allen. And did they still have Kakinen as their guy?
He might. I think his contract's up though, so I think he's gone.
Yeah, it's still perplexing to me how they went with how they traded both their goaltenders away at the trade deadline. But whatever. They can figure that one out. Anthony, Senators GM Steve Staios denies any rumors of moving Brady Tkachuk despite staying in Ottawa this season. His long-term future isn't in Ottawa.
Yeah, you know what? I know sometimes when GMs say these things, it's the opposite, and he still gets moved. But I do tend to believe Staios. I think that he has no intention of trading Brady Tkachuk. With that said, I think Brady Tkachuk is gonna. I think he's tired of being on a losing team. I mean, he sees what his brother's done at Matthew the last 2 years at Florida, going to the Cup Finals, and how Tkachuk basically willed his way out of Calgary. So even if it's not this year, I think at some point Brady Tkachuk to say I've had enough. I want to win. I want to go to a U.S. market, and I want a chance of playing on a winning team. So. Round, absolutely. I think he wants to follow in Matt's footsteps and get a change of scenery. Like I said, I do think he does stay in Ottawa this year. I do believe Staios, but I think Brady Tkachuk beyond, this season, next season, I don't think he'll be in Ottawa anymore.
Just to get a clarification on this one, do you think he finishes out his contract, which runs all the way to 27-28 seagoing?
No, I think he's traded.
He's gone.
I think this year is the final nail in the coffin. I think they're going to miss. I know we always say it's hard to say what a team's going to do before draft free agency, but I think they're going to miss the playoffs again, and then at that point he's going to be like, all right, I want out.
All right, Phil. Yeah, you're thinking the same thing, right?
Yeah, I'm going to go around. I don't see him finishing out his contract. If you're going to add that context to it, definitely not. I think that Staios doesn't want to move him, which I totally believe. But I think with those rumors coming into play now, there's going to be a lot of calls. And Staios is definitely going to entertain offers for him. And all it takes is that one offer that makes him think about it, and then discussions continue. And then that's how a deal happens. It's the negotiation. You just got to open up the door just a tad. And you know what? With now that the rumors are out there, now that there's, just kind of like a talk about it, I think teams are going to be inclined to start calling him and saying, "Hey, you know what? Is he available?" And then even Staios might even respond with like a no. It's like, And then the dialogue may open up with the general manager asking, hey, you know what? I know you're saying no, but what would it take if you were willing to move in? And that's when conversations can advance just a little bit, and you never know.
Hey, remember when Ottawa was the darling of the NHL when everybody was talking about them being a playoff team for the last 2 seasons, basically? Oh, this team is going to be this team is going to be that. I can't imagine having to pull the trigger on a trade where you have a 24-year-old power forward who is almost at the top of his game, and you're just gonna who's signed for another 4 years, and you give up. I mean, that's
not want to be there.
But still, you got to try to keep him as best you can.
It doesn't matter if someone doesn't want to be there. It doesn't matter.
See, now on the other hand, Anthony, that is true. When someone doesn't want to be there, they'll find their way out. More so than the team trying to give up on them. This
Celebrity Deathmatch round 2, Marc and Anthony. Here we go.
But no, this is absolutely around, and it's a hat trick too. That we have. It's one of those things of I just think, and I never let it get swept away. So let me let that get swept away. I can't imagine Ottawa making this trade. I can't imagine that. If they give up on Brady Tkachuk, like what is this franchise going to do? They're absolutely the worst. Then I can't think of a franchise I wouldn't want to go to any less. And by the way, Anthony, did you see the picture of the 2017 Buffalo Sabres and how good that team was?
Yeah,
like that roster's all over the NHL playoffs right now. Or you got a pretty good team that was right there. Speaking of a guy that wants to be moved, Marty Natchez has requested a trade. And no. Anthony. I started about doing this. Marty Natchez will be the biggest prize of the offseason.
First, he hasn't requested a trade. It was his dad that said that his son wants to change the scenery. Natchez actually, just to clarify that, Natchez actually himself hasn't said that he wants out. But yeah, you know what? I'm actually gonna go round here because I think Mitch Marner uncertainty, he may not waive. So if he's off the market, Nikolai Ehlers is available through trade, but I would put Natchez ahead of him. And then free agents, obviously there's Jink Gensel, there is Sam Reinhart, but I put Natchez at the top of the list. So you know what? I'm gonna go round here. I think that this is a guy that with an increased role, I think he can raise his game even more. He's fast. He's very skilled. I think his career high last year, I think he scored like 71 points. I think he could certainly get to that level again and maybe even a little bit more. So there's a reason why, 12 plus teams are in on him. So anyone who acquires him is going to get a really good hockey player. They are going to have to extend them, probably looking at between $7.5 million AAV. But he's a real good player. And, again, there's no shortage of teams that are after him.
Anthony, I'm going to go beer on this one only because you're talking about actually, you know what? I'm going to downgrade it even more. I'm going to go shot because I think it's Jake Gensel. I think Jake Gensel, even over Mitch Marner, Jake Gensel is the prize of the offseason. And he's going to be able to pick where he's going to go. I am interested in finding out where he's going to be. I think he's the biggest prize that's going to go anywhere. Mr. Filkowski, Marty Natchez, biggest prize of the offseason.
Shot. Jake Gensel.
Yeah. So, Mitch Marner may not waive, as Anthony just said. But, it's still, you have to look Gensel.
I would even say Marner over him. I think Marner will be going. I think Marner is scapegoated. I think sort of unfairly, but also sort of unfairly because there are a lot of other guys that are not pulling their own weight. Austin Matthews, I can look at him and say, what is he doing in the playoffs? As great as a regular season goal scorer is, 2 60-goal seasons in 3 years, including a 69-goal season. What has he done in the playoffs? The milk carton status for him. But, Yeah, it's Sam Reinhart too. I would put. Excuse me, sorry.
Bless you.
Salud.
But yeah, I would put Sam Reinhart over Marty Necas. Marty Necas is in the top 3 for me.
Well,
Brandon Montour.
Brandon Montour is another one.
Brandon Montour is another one. He's another one. Brandon Montour is going to hit the market.
The July 1st is going to be really interesting for us. And I think it's going to be interesting also for all the trades that's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
But guys, all those guys would love to have the career of Joe Pavelski, who hung it up this week. Dallas Stars forward Joe Pavelski will not play next season. He's likely done. I don't know why they phrased it as
confirmed now.
It's confirmed on NHL.com that he was not planning to play next season. And all the different Stars players went over and consoled him consoled him, not cajoled. That when he was done the other night. Joe Pavelski, 1,068 points, just under 500 goals, just under 600 assists. Joe Pavelski is a Hall of Famer. Filk, I'll let you start this one.
Shot. Sorry, but he's short. No individual accolades. I think his highest amount of points in a season was 81. Very good player. I'm a fan. I think he will be in the U.S. Hockey Hall of Fame. He needs a certainty.
Yeah.
But if Joe Pavelski makes the Hall of Fame and Jeremy Roenick doesn't, then there's something really wrong there, because Roenick was also one of the very best players in the game for a while in the early to mid 90s. Pavelski was in that very good tier, but nowhere ever close to elite. Like, the one thing I could say that he was the very best at for a while was deflections, tip-in goals, net front presence.
Yes.
Probably the best net front presence in the league until Chris Kreider kind of came along and took that crown from him. But Pavelski, no, it doesn't even have an Olympic gold medal. I think he has a silver from 2010, but that's really it.
I don't think he was on that team. I think he was on the 2014 team.
I think he was on the 2010 team.
We're going to have to look that one up. Anthony.
What was?
Anthony, Pavelski Hall of Famer?
Yeah, it's a shot. Listen, great career. I mean, he's over 1,000 points, but 1,000 points isn't a benchmark that necessarily gets you in the Hall of Fame. He did have 140 goal year, but he never even cracked
the 10 team.
All right, my mistake.
He never even cracked 80 points. I mean, his career high was 79 when he had that 40.
Okay. Wait, no, he did. He cracked 80 points. I think 2 years ago or last year.
He did. Right. Yeah, I didn't scroll that far down. Yeah, he had 81 points.
Yeah, I thought so. Yeah.
But you know what? Even still, it's just his. He didn't have like good enough individual seasons, I think, that puts him in the conversation of being a Hall of Fame player.
Yeah.
I mean, great net front presence. I mean, for guys, he was affectionately nicknamed Little Joe because he spent so many years with Joe Thornton. For a guy of his stature to compete the way he did and go to the net and make a living of it, super talented, but not a Hall of Fame player.
I would agree with this comment from Chris T. Yeah, like Brian Propp was a great player. Don't think he's a Hall of Famer, though, or a very, very good player, wasn't a Hall of Famer. John Tavares is another one. I think very good player, but probably not a Hall of Famer. Claude Giroux, another one. Very good player, but not a Hall of Famer for me. That's where I think Pavelski is.
And I also have to say, guys, I think part of the problem in this is that I don't know if he has the international accolades that'll get him in there, and he does it. Like Tavares might get in because of his junior career and Team Canada stuff.
I don't think Tavares is getting.
I know. I'm just spitballing with it.
Well, actually, Tavares might have with his junior hockey. I mean, that's the thing. It's not just the NHL Hall of Fame. It's IIHF Hall of Fame. And that's why certain guys get in there that don't really have the great NHL stuff, but their international stuff is really good. So I think Tavares has International play. He has 2014 gold for Olympics, 2008 World Championships gold, 2009 World. Oh no, yeah, that was junior. Sorry, 2008, 2009 World Junior gold, Canada Cup gold in 2016 for the World Cup of Hockey, and then he won a Spengler Cup in 2012 with Davos. So I mean, if he gets like 1,000+ points, he might end up making it.
And don't forget, Tavares, 2-time MVP finalist, and I think he should have won one. But let's go back to Pavelski for a minute. There's one thing everybody talks about him being a Hall of Famer in, and that's being a teammate. Everybody has raved about him, that he's such a great teammate. And let's also not forget, he was part of that infamous 2003 NHL draft, and arguably one of the best players ever drafted in the 7th round. Do you know what the 4 contributors were from that 7th round? You got the guy that was nearly Mr. Irrelevant, Brian Elliott.
Yep.
Then you had before him, you had Yaroslav Halak, and you had Dustin Byfuglien, and Joe Pavelski was at the top of the 7th round. So it's amazing just to get 4 NHLers out of the 7th round. Never mind getting one, and especially one as good as Joe Pavelski, who I still think if he actually had the heart in him, he could come back and play at a higher level. All right, guys, that was the end of Big Apple Hockey's Bar Talk. Hopefully there weren't any layups today, in which there weren't. Well, kind of. I guess there might have been one. But always great having you guys with us. Do we have any time for any Q&A? We are way over time.
Is it too soon? Is it too soon to start talking and plugging our free agent special? I mean, it's 20-something days away, right?
Yeah,
that is true. I mean,
6 days, I think. 27, one of the two.
Yeah, it is a Monday, so I'm typing it in right now just to say join us for the free agent frenzy. We'll be talking all about that. We got the draft special. Filk and Steven had a great format that they had last year that the first couple picks I kept screwing up, but where Filk and Steven did the draft, and basically you guys were spot on with a lot of those. So we're going to be doing that hopefully again. Chris T is saying hot take. Jake Gensel signs with the Flyers. Wow.
Yeah, I don't see that. I don't see them as a team that's like, I don't know. I don't see them as a team that's really kind of like going in the right direction for that. To me, it just doesn't. I shouldn't say that. I said it wrong. He doesn't fit their trajectory right now. Is really what I meant to say. I don't see it.
I did hear something recently about Matvei Michkov potentially coming over early.
Yes, this year, supposedly.
So, it's funny. Speaking of Gensel, I was just scrolling on Twitter, and it said, from the NHL Watcher account that usually just kind of like retweet stuff. Is Friedman on the show. My surprise July 1st pick is Jake Gensel to Chicago. That was my off the board pick. I mean, I don't see either. I don't see Chicago, or I don't see Philly either. I mean, why? I don't know why he would go. Why he would go there?
I think a bunch of contenders will come and give him money that he's looking for. The only way that I could see Chicago working out is if no one was able to have the cap space to give him the type of money that he was looking for, and Chicago just blew him out of the water. Let's just say they gave him like $11.5 million or something like that, and no one else was even going over like $7.5. Maybe I could see that at that point. Then,
my prediction for Gensel is, if you guys remember, it was that crazy rumor that a lot of guys were talking about, how after trading for Elias Lindholm, Vancouver was talking about the possibility of trying to flip Lindholm so they can then trade for Gensel. I think maybe Vancouver goes after Jake Gensel. It seems like they might let Elias Lindholm walk in free agency. I expect them to pick up the phone and call Jake Gensel on July 1st.
They need defense. They need defense big time. If anything, the guy that I would go with, I would worry about keeping Zadorov if I were them, but I would want to try to get Brandon Montour if I were them.
And where for life is asking, I would love to trade Trouba, but is there a team on the market who would take this contract? Filk, I spitball this one. Who do you think could actually take Trouba's contract?
Probably a rebuilding team that might want veteran leadership and a physical presence.
That sounds like the Blackhawks.
Yeah, I mean, I would think something like that, but you never know. I remember years ago, and I was on HF boards, and there was all this stuff about how Scott Gomez had negative value, and then the Ryan McDonough trade happened. And it just goes to show you that fans know jack shit about trade value.
He's right. I guess the caveat to this, yeah, sure, you could like project that, teams with bad teams with a lot of cap space like San Jose, Chicago would agree to take on Trouba with retention. But the wrinkle is, more often than not, those teams also appear on that player's no trade clause. So that could be the roadblock you get into.
Yeah,
so
understandable.
We'll see.
But the only thing is with Trouba is that he's got a limited list. Like his list is not a full one.
So he's got a 15 team list.
Yeah. So
we can knock out 9 of them. Oh, sorry. Is it 9 of them or is it? We can knock out 7 of them already. I guarantee none of the Canadian teams are on there.
Yeah, probably right. Yeah,
you're probably right about that. I would imagine Detroit would probably be a team that he'd probably wait for because he's from that area.
You're probably talking Canadian teams and then like Buffalo, Columbus, teams of that nature.
Buffalo is close to Michigan if you want to use that one. But could Utah fit that description? We're all speculating Utah, but they're an up-and-coming team. I can't even recall who their captain is at the moment. I'll look at that in a second. But maybe they're going to use him for, quote, leadership, because everybody talks about how great he is in the room, but I personally don't know. Utah does not have a captain right now.
Yeah, right now they don't have a captain. I don't remember who their captain was previously. I mean, you could look maybe towards Clayton Keller or Lawson Krause, someone like that as a captain. But you're right, they do have some good pieces that are coming up that are probably going to be good players. I mean, Michelli, Keller's already there. Schmaltz is a good player. Krause, I think, could get better.
Cooley.
Logan Cooley, obviously, but Barrett Hayton's another one. Sean Dursey is a good puck mover. They have talent there. Hayton had 43 points in 2023, including 19 goals. Like he looked like he was up on and up, and then he got injured this year and only played 33 games. So they have pieces.
But let's also keep going from that one because I looked at their cap space. I started laughing, guys. They have $43 million in available cap space and almost every draft pick known to man, including I believe they have the number 2. They have a second rounder for the New York Rangers next year. So that also is right there. They can probably move him over there, but I don't know. He would have to agree to go there, but at least that's a team on the upswing. They still have to re-sign their entire defense core. That's the reason why I was kind of laughing about that. They have to sign everybody. I've never seen a team ever have everybody on their defense core need to be re-signed.
Yeah, that's pretty bad. It's I don't understand how. Well, the only good thing about that is that it's really 5 guys, and 3 of them are RFAs, so it's not too bad. And then Joshua Brown is not really a big loss, and I mean Travis Dermott is meh. I mean, I know a few years back with Toronto, everybody thought he was going to come up and be a real good puck mover, but hasn't really done anything. Actually, Brett Pesce would be a great fit for the Rangers. He'd be a great fit for the Utah team as well. Like, that's the type of guy that they need right there.
Yeah. I highlighted Leo's comment about Vejmelka being a solid goalie. I was on the Vejmelka train. I kind of fell off of it this past season because I think Connor Ingram took his spot. And I just think that's probably going to be their goalie. But we'll see about that one. I think there's a lot of
Marc, this JVR. I think JVR is.
I keep clicking and you keep clicking it too. No thanks to JVR.
Yeah.
No thanks.
I think exactly.
I gotta agree with that one. No.
I think it's Blake Wheeler deja vu all over again.
What did he do in Boston this year?
Yeah.
What did he do? Like, I just at some point you gotta stop looking at name value. I mean, he had 38 points in 71 games. It's not bad, but like, he's 34 going on. I mean, I think he's 35 now. I think. Yeah, he just turned 35 back in May. No thanks. I don't see it.
You know what, Phil? I wanted to get your take. Phil, I wanted to get your take because when Mark and I did that impromptu stream a couple days ago, I mentioned Jordan Martinook for the Rangers. What do you think of Martinook? I think Martinook is a fabulous bottom six player. I mean, his effort, his motor, that diving play he made in the series against the Rangers where he kept the puck out of the line. I mean, I think he's a guy in the bottom six that a lot of teams are going to be calling on July 1st.
Yeah,
I think there's going to be high interest.
He's going to command a Barclay Goodrow type contract, and I mean, as much as I like the player, you got to stay away from something like that. He's also 31 years old, so I just 34 points last year, 32 points this year. Real good player. You gotta be aware of something like that. Can't go giving him a Barclay Goodrow type deal. That ain't gonna happen.
And we keep getting people that ask about Alex Tuck. It's not that he doesn't want to play for the Rangers. Alex Tuck actually wants to be a Buffalo Sabre. And if that line that he plays on plays well, if Tage Thompson is healthy all season, why not? All right, we're gonna have to, guys. I was gonna say we're gonna have to wrap this up.
Yeah, I was gonna say I was just looking at the free agents class. There's a lot of, I mean, it's not like many like high end names, but there's a lot of just like solid players that are UFAs. I mean, Matthew Shane after getting bought out by Nashville, he bet on himself, took a 1 year deal in Dallas, and he had 65 points, and he's a free agent. I think there's going to be a lot of interest in Matthew Shane this offseason. Matter of fact, I have him high on the list of my wish list for the Islanders for Duchesne. I think he still has a lot of game left. It would be a real good pickup for, again, a lot of teams.
And we have an Anthony Squared question right here. First, it's directed to you, and it's about an Anthony. And how we doing, El?
No.
What do you think an Anthony Mantha contract would look like?
Saravelli did like the contract projections for the top 75 UFAs. I forget what he had Mantha at. Solid player. I mean, he was good on a bad Washington team, and then he was decent for Vegas. But I mean, a guy like him, I would say probably no more than the 3 years on the term, maybe $4 million, I would say. I think it might be fair for him.
Yeah, and again, the NWR for Life saying that I agree with Brooks's take. They need to sign a big, solid D-man. All right, guys, we actually packed a lot of hockey talk in here, and I have dinner to make and to actually spend some time with my lovely fiance right now. So we're gonna cut it off right there. We'll start the bye-bye, and we will say bye-bye as well. This has been a hell of a week, and it's it's only going to get more interesting as the next couple weeks come down, Phil. Seeing what's going to happen with the draft. Phil, how much the fact that the Rangers don't have anything in draft capital is going to hurt them trying to move contracts?
I don't know. I don't know if they're going to be able to move quickly. That's the thing. Like, they don't have a second rounder these next 3 years.
A third rounder the next
third rounder in 2026. They don't have a third. They have only a fourth rounder in 2024, not in 2025, 26. They have all their fifths and their sixths, including Minnesota's fifth in 2025, and then they have Vancouver's seventh in 2026. So, yeah, I don't see them moving a first-round pick and move a contract. They're probably going to have to retain.
Wow. I mean, because the other thing is, reasonably speaking, you would want the ideal situation for the Rangers: trade Trouba, buy out Goudreau.
Yeah, I mean, that's probably what you would want to happen, because Barclay Goodrow is... You would want to trade Barclay Goodrow, but, I mean, the problem is who takes that contract.
Right? You'd have to go to a contender. Now he's got 3 more years at 3.6. That makes it at least a little bit more.
A little more bearable, yeah.
And at 31 years old, let's face it, much like JG Pajot, although it is going to hurt Anthony's ears to hear it, he's kind of 31 going on 35. So
yeah,
that's one of those things. All right, guys, thank you very much. We had 2.5 hours worth of hockey talk today, and we still got a lot more that's coming the rest of this month. Probably the day after, if I have some afternoons off, I'll do some Stanley Cup Finals streams. But what headline do you think the Rangers are going to have, Phil, before the draft or at the draft?
What do you mean?
What's a headline you think we're going to hear about the Rangers when it comes to the draft before free agency? Are they going to be going after a big name free agent, or are they going to be dealing some players off? Does a Kako deal happen?
I think someone's getting moved. I don't know who it is, but someone's getting moved.
Yeah, this is going to be mighty interesting. All right, guys, thank you very much. Everybody have a great night.
Take care, everybody.